Hello and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host, Clay, and with me for a third week in a row, Adrian. Thank you so much for coming last minute. Katie was planning on coming, uh, but unfortunately, she is dealing with a flooded bathroom in her house. And from the sounds of it, it's gonna be a while before she gets that completely fixed, which absolutely sucks. So hopefully next time next week Katie can roll around and be here on the show, but right now she's dealing with a lot, so I don't want to keep her stressed out with having to be on time with the show and everything else. you know Especially with a newborn child, definitely can just kind of relax and deal with the stuff that she
Yeah.
has to do. But Adrian, how you been, man? It's been a week. It's already been a day. I will say this for surprisingly not as much controversy or negative thoughts on this episode.
Yeah. I think it just took. It's just sad that it just took like pew pew punch punch
and
zzz, for people to
and
be like, oh, okay, this is
exactly,
good,
exactly.
you
It's
know.
it's
But
it's
whatever gets you there, man. Whatever gets you there.
it is part of the what we of course dub the lightsaber problem. It's not until the action kicks in that people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, it's Star Wars." Um but before we get into the show, um I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. There's part of news that we will get to. I'm sure Katie wanted to talk a little bit about the drama that has been going on in the Star Wars community. I will be completely honest and say that I do not know enough about it to give any strong opinion about it. I do know their stuff is going on. There are people that I have gotten to know in the Star Wars community that have been affected by the drama. And it's just odd. The Star Wars community is in a very weird place at all times, and I would just say 2 points. One, guys, it's Star Wars. I think we can all be, friends and fans of this franchise without trying to kill each other. And two, catfishing is bad. That's all I have to say. Um, Personally. Again, I think Katie will have a little bit more insight on all of that, and we will talk to her, of course, next week, hopefully. Um, so Adrian, do you want to put anything else into that, or it's
Um.
up to you?
Yeah, it's really weird, man. It's really weird because like I personally have always like wanted to be like a part of Star Wars Twitter for like a long time, even back
Mhm.
when the editor in chief of But Why Though Kate, when we were still doing the podcast, was one of like the voices behind Star Wars Rep Matters, way back when,
Yeah.
and we had a similar reaction, um, and kind of like backlash and things, but no one was like at the head of that was catfishing people and all that stuff. So I think it's super rough and just super sad because like the show was so good, and then like we were finally reeling people back in and like defeating like all of like the negative things, and then we just went and like shot ourselves in the foot. And I've just really never been able to like break into Star Wars Twitter, so I've just been very thankful for being able to like post things like on Instagram and like TikTok and having a lot more conversation there. That's much more focused on just what's happening in the shows and things, and that's been a much better community for me personally
Yeah.
than Star Wars Twitter has been.
I will say this, Adrian. I will be fighting in your corner really quickly with this whole TikTok thing. I've seen you
Yeah,
just randomly start showing up on my TikTok. I saw some of the reactions. If you need me to, I'm there to bat. I'm right there, man.
yeah.
I love your
It's been
content on
super
there.
fun. It's been super fun. But I had like one video do really well for about Padme's handmaidens, and that had like a lot of positive reactions. But the minute I start talking about like the acolyte in any positive way, it turns into like a brainstorm. So to have like that going on, and also like to like walk into Star Wars Twitter, be like, okay, positivity, and it's just all fire and
Ah!
mess. You're just like, what do I do? What do I do? And I just went for a walk and talked about like honestly a lot of the things that were relevant that happened in this last episode. I think a lot of the this new order stuff that you're going to mention and talk about here pretty soon are super
Yeah.
relevant to so many themes that we're seeing in the Acolyte, so many themes that we see Yoda go through and kind of like his enlightenment period. So much good
Hmm.
stuff going on in the Star Wars that I'd rather just focus on that than worry about who's
Yeah.
catfishing who. Because I was sketchy about that person from the start. So I
Yeah,
was like,
like
got it.
I told Katie that it was apparently this video. Again, don't know too much about it. I saw the Acolyte hashtag, and so I just stopped. You know how on Twitter you can stop on a video and kind of see if anything's going on. Apparently there was another hashtag of like I don't know what the exact hashtag was, but basically, like, we are more like there's more of us, or
Yeah,
whatever the
more of
hashtag
us.
was,
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
claiming, yeah, basically claiming, hey, there are good people in the community, and spreading good vibes. That has controversy over it, but the video I noticed because of the Acolyte hashtag, and so I recognized the profile picture of the said person that is catfishing, but I didn't really know them or actually have a mutual like connected to them. So I was just like, whatever. But yeah, there's that. Again, I think that me and Katie will probably talk a little bit more as it unfolds. But let's go ahead and move on. The only big news, literally something that just came out about 10 minutes ago. It is said from Daniel RPK that the Ray Skywalker movie is going to be filming in September. We are looking at a September start date on production. And I believe this has a possible release date of 2026 from what we have seen from those random Disney like future
Mhm.
slates, and it has all like the
Timelines. Yeah,
Lucasfilms and all of that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, Agent, like, how do you feel about it? Like, it says currently they are, of course, casting for the two students of Ray Skywalker, and the villain. But like, are you like super excited about this? Like, do you see anything like hopefully, like coming from this movie, or as far as like
Yeah.
changing the way we look at Star Wars, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're already changing the way we're looking at Star Wars, or we should be anyway, right? I think being married to the Jedi that we
Yeah,
see in the Skywalker saga are meant not to, we're not supposed to love those guys, you know, we're supposed to love like what they represent, but like not the things that led to their downfall, right? And even Yoda, from in between episode 1 and episode 3, goes through a pretty big transformation when he goes on that road to being a Force ghost to the point where Yoda, of all people, the one, saying, "Oh, we don't want to train this kid because he's too young," and blah 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 blah, burning down Force trees and Jedi, you know, histories, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't
yeah.
matter. It just doesn't matter because the only fight that matters is the fight between the light and the dark. I think the Acolyte's touching on that here now. Um, so when we have this new order, I'm hoping that it's just like I hope that we've seen you and I have read about the High Republic and seen what it's like when it's really really good. We've slowly seen that decline, and now I'm hoping that we're seeing that rise back up to that kind of golden era of the Jedi. And I
Mhm.
think with Rey, with Yoda now as Force Ghost, with all of the Force Ghosts that we have, they should be a whole different kind of Jedi Order, and I'm hoping that they will be.
Yeah, I really want to be involved with the order when it comes to something on screen. I know that
Yeah,
here in the Acolyte, we've kind of seen like something that's like smaller because of the whole thing with Coyote Mundi and Vernestra Rowe and Soul, and
yeah,
that small little conversation that was in episode 3. So, or probably the beginning of episode 4, actually. Uh, so I want to see now in the future of Star Wars something that's a little bit more involved, seeing the growth and all of that. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited that Daisy is able to play a character that is so much more matured in her, of course, growth and mistakes and everything. We get to
Yep.
we're gonna hopefully see that. Oh, another
No,
piece of
Clay,
news.
she didn't go through anything, Clay. She didn't do anything. There's no growth in the movie at all. She did
Well,
nothing.
that is what brings me to the other piece of news that I completely forgot, is that Marvel has officially announced that Star Wars and Darth Vader, the comic books, are stopping
Yeah, I did see
this
that.
year.
Yeah.
So and starting a quote unquote new era. So before we actually jump into the Acolyte episode, I do want to ask your speculation on this, because me and Katie have been speculating on this for months. Um, do you think Marvel will go and jump between uh the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens, or are they going to stay in the prequel era and kind of fill in the gap to what we now know as the Acolyte to the Phantom Menace?
That's a good question. Both.
You think
At
both?
some point. At some point. What this next one is, it'll probably be the other one later.
Mhm.
I think they're going to fill in these gaps eventually.
Yeah,
we're on this train for a while.
yeah,
Even back to like further than that, right? Because the other movie is going back to like the first Jedi Temple, like
exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're going front to back on this. So they're going to fill in those gaps eventually. I would hope that it's just like I would hope that they focus on the actual Star Wars comic more than anything, right? Because I
Mhm.
think a lot is like everyone's really sad that the Darth Vader comic is ending, but like the Star Wars comic has had cool stuff in it. I think as much or if not more than the Darth Vader comic has had in their
I
most
do I
recent.
do fe Yeah, I
So
do feel
whatever
like
they do,
Darth
focus
Vader.
on the bigger thing. Because, like you said, I want to be involved in the Jedi Order, and I would love to follow other characters. But if we're doing like if you're stopping Darth Vader to do a whole new line, then bring everybody along on the line, not just people who are
Yeah.
looking for that one specific character. Because you can always do that later, and you will do that
Yeah.
later anyway.
And I personally think you are right that Darth Vader has overshadowed the Star Wars title. Granted, they've both, Star Wars and Darth Vader, have had really great creative
Yeah,
teams on them.
yeah, awesome.
Um and I really dug. I still need to catch up on this current run. I think I stopped around somewhere but like 33, 34. Sometime when minor spoilers, Luke Skywalker had some sort of like force vision with somebody who was a Sith. I'm pretty sure, or something like that. Like
Hmm.
I just remember the panels was supposed to be like red or whatever. Um, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the ending of this run, and genuinely surprised that they are hopefully moving away from what will be the original trilogy and going somewhere else with it. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, super, super, super into it, and I'm just excited to see Ray again, man. I'm just super, super excited to see Ray again. Like I think it's so hard to be like, oh, what's your favorite character? Who's your favorite this? Who's your favorite that? And Star Wars is
Yeah.
this is the hardest as the more that this goes on. But I think Ray is
Hmm.
always going to be up there for me, just from her first movie to that third movie. I don't care what anybody says about the direction or whatever. I'm ride or die Ray Skywalker,
100%.
and I hope Finn's one of her students. And if Finn's not a Jedi in the next one, then I might have to recheck myself and my attachment and things like that and not get angry about it. That one will be tough for me, I think.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the Acolyte. Episode 5, Night. Episode 4 was day. Episode 5 is night. And it is a complete change from day to night. It goes from 0 to 100 very quickly in this episode. Of course, we left off with the stranger using a force push on all of the Jedi that are here at Kalnaka's little hideout. And we start with Osha waking up from her little stupor that the stranger had put her on. And Agent, how did you feel about this open? Like like I said, it goes from 0 to 100, but how did you feel seeing all the
Yeah.
action? There was a confirmation now of a Legends concept, being put into this episode as well that we got to see very early on in this episode. Like, tell me all of your feelings at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's super great. I think last week when we talked, Georgie had said that they had split these two episodes. You can definitely feel it at the start of episode
Hmm.
5 from the cliffhanger of episode 4 because it goes right into it. And
Yeah.
if you want an action, like this is basically all you get here, which I think is a detriment to some of the stuff later in the episode. I think it's where I knocked a little bit for my review personally. But
Hmm.
the initial thing, what you came for, is there and you're getting it. And I think even if for me personally, like I still think there's so much open for speculation, even if we already have questions answered. But the way that they like, okay, here's your answer to this one, but here's another one. I think it's just done so well, and I think it's really just anchored by these performances of not just like their line delivery, but also just their choreo work. Man, was so good in this episode, and you get it right
Yes.
away.
Yeah, I was freaking out over the choreography of this first fight. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
I love the and I just teased it and I can't even remember the name of it. The cortosis
yeah.
that has been confirmed. So cortosis is one of the strongest metals in the galaxy of Star Wars, and it could even withstand the blow of a lightsaber and even short circuit it for a short while, which we did see in the actual episode. They did it quite a few times with several different lightsabers. Uh, I really dug this. I don't know exact. I'm guessing cortosis is also what the helmet is made out of because still not gonna say their name. But we see the stranger use the helmet as like a headbutt to like stop lightsabers as well. It was absolutely nuts. Um, really, really crazy that like he even at one point stabs a Jedi and then force pulls another Jedi at the end of that saber as well, double impaling, and then continues on. Absolutely insane. While all this is going on, we also get to see May. And we see this thing when I talked last week. I said I thought it was a little weird how quickly she changed. Well, guess what? It was just as quickly she switched back. And I think it is on purpose. It is very much on purpose. One thing that we need to remember is that people who use the dark side of the force, which we all assume, of course, is what this person, the stranger, is doing, is they feed on fear. They manipulate through fear, and they have May right in their grasps. Because we see it here. We see them attempt to even try and kill May, and she runs away. She's, oh, I was weak at this one moment. I'm so sorry. And going back and forth and back and forth. This, although people may call it a little bit of clunky writing, I can understand the sentiment there, but I actually like it this time. I like it this time around because you see the fear on her face. Um, and we even get to see her change in stature completely by the end of this episode. But I do like her fight with Jackie. That was really hands on. I did really dig because it happened several times throughout this episode. The fighting without the lightsabers. We got to see, of course, a little taste of it in episode 1 with Master and Dara. But here we got to see it with Soul. We got to see it with Jackie. We got to see it with May. It was all over the place. even with the stranger. Um, so I really dug the choreography here. One thing that before May and the stranger had contact in this episode, Jackie and May had contact in this episode. I would have liked a little bit of dialogue with May trying to convince her, like, hey, I was actually trying to come to y'all, but I understand. Adrenaline is running through everybody. You know, the Jackie is just trying to apprehend her, because she says, you were, and it was, she didn't have to go that hard. You're under arrest for this, this, this. Oh,
She's,
and
no, yes, she
killing your
does because she's a
family.
cop, Clay. Yeah, we talked about this, Clay. She's a cop. She 100% would go that far.
Yeah,
100%.
they're like, even everybody was like, oh, I can't believe, I think you even commented on this comment on Twitter when somebody was like, oh, I can't believe Yord was still trying to follow the rules even while running away. It's because
Yeah,
they're cops.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. He doesn't want to be there. Jackie's a child cop, and Yord is some dude who's fresh out of the academy and has like never been on the job before, and is like a cop for all of the wrong reasons. Jackie would probably be a great cop. She probably should have not. She should have not got hole punched. She should have not got hole punched.
yeah, and that's where we get the reveal. We get this reveal when Jackie goes ham. She is awesome. She gets to dual wield lightsabers. This was awesome. I love this fight. Um, but she looks like she's getting the upper hand on the stranger, knocks off the helmet, and as soon as she runs forward, that was her downfall. She thinks that she got him, and then boom, 3 holes in the chest, and it is revealed that the stranger is, we all saw it coming, Chimere.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the reveal?
I was with the reveal because for the last 10 minutes up to that point, I'm fucking bought in on this dude, whoever this is.
Yeah.
I still didn't
Yeah.
know. All we saw was giant arms. It could have been anybody,
Mm-hmm.
could have been anybody. So I was bought in up until the reveal. And when the reveal happened, I was like, bravo, Manny Jacinto, for being an absolute gangster because he murdered it. I thought he did fantastic in the parts where it's like clearly his choreo. I think he killed it. So I thought he did great. And then as the episode progresses, you buy more and more into like it being him and the way that he turns it on. The general is like obviously like oh, his reasonings later are obviously not justified, but like even I was just like, yeah, hey man, what'd you do, Soul? What'd you do?
Well, and
What'd you
that's the
do,
big
man? And
thing.
I don't want to question you, bro, but what did you do?
One thing that we forgot to mention before the reveal of Chimere being the stranger, Soul questions him and like, who are
Almost kills him.
you? And and the stranger, still with the helmet on, says, "Oh, you don't remember me? Oh
Yeah.
no!" Like
Yeah.
this, red flags. Oh no,
Yeah, I
Soul,
was
what did
sketched
you
out.
do?
I was sketched out
Ugh.
when he was the only one to sense him, and he was the only one who said something was off from the minute they landed on the planet. Something was off with Saul as soon as they got there because we haven't seen that man smile in forever, and
Yeah.
I don't think we're seeing him smile anymore for the rest of the season. Because even when May, oh god, there's so much stuff in this just made me question Saul. And shout out to the writing team because you made people fall in love with these characters and now everyone's just like, now what? Now what?
The way this went down, man. Okay, so Jackie, of course, like all the other Jedi are dead at this point. Jackie then dies. We see Chimere as the stranger. There is then a small little tussle between Soul uh and Chimere. Then freaking Yord comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, it's you. And then Yord dies.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Now, again, we unfortunately kind of knew this may have possibly been the only outcome because of how these events are taking place. Again, even Chimere said himself, "Oh, now that everybody's seen me, everybody has to die."
Yeah.
And that even like because the big debate, and I would like to know what side you are on. In the episode, Soul asks, "What are you? Who are you?" Blah blah blah. And at this time, Chimere has revealed himself. He says, "Oh, to the likes of you Jedi, you could call me Sith." That's what he says. Now, EW is reporting that Manny himself has confirmed Chimere is a Sith Lord. Now, I believe that Manny or Chimere himself in the said universe of Star Wars is self-proclaiming himself to be a Sith Lord. That's my headcanon. That is my little
Mhm.
tinfoil hat. What do you think? Now, again, we don't have a
Yeah.
lot of information, but speculation is
Mhm.
welcome onto this show. So, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think can go a couple of ways. I'm still holding on to my Mother Coral theory that he's in cahoots with Mother Coral, and that's why they know how to do the mind. He knows how to do the mind thing.
Hmm.
Somehow, I don't know. That's where I would love for that to go personally. Like that's where I would love for the story to go. But I could definitely see it being that he is just tired of everybody's rules, right? Jedi, Sith,
Yeah.
whatever, and he wants to like Miles Morales it and like go do his own thing. But the difference is between those two is that he's a murderer, so he can't just go off and do his own thing, whether he's a Jedi or a Sith, right? Because he has to like stay hidden or in all these things. So, and then you have the whole thing of like the Kylo's theme interplaying later on in the episode, where
Yeah.
people are starting to think that he might be the start of the Knights of Ren, which I could definitely see. But I think what you're saying as well is that he could be because the Kylo theme is playing there. It could also be just that, just like Kylo was, he's just a pretender. And
Hmm.
he's not who he says he is, which I think gives credence to the fact that he might not be the actual master, and that's why people keep referring to him as just the stranger because he really might not be the master, and he's trying to like branch off and get his other Knights of
And
Ren. This combat style is crazy.
yeah, it's
Confirmed like a combat style we haven't seen. The another thing canon that's confirmed. So everyone's saying that this like series doesn't care about like Legends lore.
legends and
Just just
stuff. Yeah.
just remember that like just know that like this dude's lightsaber style is like old school canon, new Jedi Order before Rey's Jedi Order is going to be a thing. The
Yeah.
on and off style canonized now. So we're getting those things in this series. And if he is a Ren, here's my like crazy theory how everyone doesn't get out of this. Everybody dies because in the comics the Rens have explosives in their lightsabers, and I think
Hmm.
that's how it all goes. I think so. I think he's a Ren. I think he's a Ren, and the way that all this goes is no one knows. No
No
one
one,
knows.
no one is going to live to tell the tale.
Untold
And
stories.
I think that could definitely be it. Like the idea that Coyote Mundi at one point in the Phantom Menace will say, "Oh, the Sith have been extinct for millennia." Well, he's never heard of this chimere,
Yeah.
and he will not hear the story of what happened on the mission to Kalnucket.
I
Like
can't
it's
even believe we're still even like I can't even believe we're still even entertaining that at this point. But like the like I can't believe that's still the conversation, man. I watched that episode a month ago, and the fact that we're still talking about it
I mean,
blows my mind.
it's
It
wild.
blows my mind.
I will say this. Somebody did remind me that oh shoot, what was his name? David Harewood from people will know him from of course the CW. He played the Martian Manhunter on Supergirl.
Hmm. Okay.
He
Yeah.
was
Yeah. He's good.
also
He's good.
Alan Wake 2. I believe he has a role in the video game of Alan Wake 2.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. That he hasn't shown up yet, right? Is that the?
he has not shown up in The Acolyte, and he was cast in this show. I completely forgot that he was cast in
Yeah.
this show. People are now speculating maybe he is the master. Maybe he is the one above the stranger, above Chimere. I still like the idea of Mother Coral still being the end all be all for this whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
but we go on to closer to the end of this. We see the conversation between Osha and May. This conversation is first very solemn. There's an embrace, really light music, and then it boom, switch. Osha puts May in a arm lock, then May puts Osha in an arm lock, and then May uses the force, and she even says, "Oh, you could never block," and
Yeah.
knocks her out. And then we see May cut off her hair. I knew exactly what
Oh,
was happening
yeah.
as soon as this happened.
Dude, between like that and then Acho from Star Wars Visions, when anyone
Yeah,
who cuts off their hair with the lightsaber is automatically badass in my eyes.
yeah.
Just absolute badass.
But it is, of course, revealed and very much assumed that Osha and May are now going to be on the opposite sides of where they were
Yeah.
in this season. And people are questioning, like, oh, how could this be? Blah blah blah. People are again pointing out the fact, hey, Palpatine hid in plain sight with the
Yeah,
council.
worried about the wrong things, y'all. They're
Yeah,
worried about the
yeah.
wrong
I
things.
I am very interested in how
Mm.
these last 3 episodes will go, because with the climax like episode 5 had, like, it's gonna be crazy for how this can end. Like, how do
Yeah.
you top that to get people like, oh my gosh? And of course, with the hopes of more seasons, there's got to be a cliffhanger and all of these other
Yeah.
things. So I'm really excited for the rest of this season. Um, one big thing with this whole Osha and May switching sides is we are seeing Basil, right?
My boy Basil. Yeah. Basil.
Basil, he gets the one part of Pip, and he is following the scent, or he is
Yeah.
hoping to follow the scent. He goes
You,
to the ship.
you can't even love the droids in this show. You can't even love the droids because the droids are usually safe. They're usually safe. No, not
Dude,
even in this one.
the way that OSHA was like, "Oh, I love you, Pip," and then, like, threw
Yeah, she didn't have to
Pip
do
on,
that. She
she
didn't
was
have
like,
to do that.
she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna sacrifice you, peace."
It was like,
Um,
like
Poor Pip, man.
poor Pip. Hopefully, Pip will get back. Pip will get back. Right? Basil's doing his job.
Emil says here in the chat over at YouTube says, for the next episode, I think Sol will tell his version to May, while Chimere will tell Osha exactly what happened with the massacre 16 years ago. Remember that Chimere wants to take Osha to the dark side. I'm
Yeah,
going to
I
be
mean it's
very interested to see this, because there was a moment where, like, when Osha says, I saw you set that fire, like, May was kind of like, there was a silence there, and I think it hasn't clicked. And I still believe that May was brainwashed in some, or manipulated in some way during that time. So, like,
yeah,
I'm very curious to
yeah,
see how
yeah,
all of that gets laid out. Uh,
yeah,
is
yeah. I
there
mean
anything else? Oh, go
it
ahead.
could it could be Coral. it could be Coral doing, the brainwashing, found her, pushed her against the Jedi. I don't know. There's so many cool things that could be. But I think at the heart of it all is it's just hitting at one of like the core things that Star Wars always does is its storytelling. It's all about perspective. They have three whole full books from a certain point of view that hit on perspective and change the way that certain scenes happen when you see it from someone other than Luke's point of view or Leia's point of view or the Jedi's point of view, etc. So we're going to see they how deep are their connections? How deep is Osha down with the Jedi once she knows the truth? Like May, people would say that her switch was quick, but when you see a family member who you thought was dead and you're doing all of these things for, and that intent is there, I think that's a good at the very heart of it. I think that's a good intention, and that's what the light side is about, right? Good intentions and light in your heart. So as soon as that thing is over, what is like why should May want to do those things anymore if this whole reason why she did this was led with like that good intention? She took the perspective of the Sith and their power and whatever they can give her, and took that as, okay, I'm going to use this to avenge in a positive way. Unlike Chimera, who's just like, I just want to like throw two people in a lightsaber because it's cool, and people
Yeah, he just
will,
wants to
and
watch the
I
world
want to
burn,
flex my arm, really nicely. So like those are two people on the same side at the time, vastly different perspectives and point of views, vastly changed their character progressions. So, and I don't think that Osha is as goodly, like as positively like motivated as we think she is.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a lot easier for her to turn to the dark side than than it appears to be. Than we think it is, because we've to this point we see Osha as like the good sister, quote unquote. But again, all about perspective. That's just how the story has framed May so far. She could be the secret um, protagonist all along, and it's actually Osha who is blinded by what the Jedi have said and the fact that she can't. We don't know why she left, but she definitely couldn't get past the base things in the Jedi code that keep you away from the dark side, right? Because that's what the whole Jedi
Yeah.
code is for. If good intention and light in your heart is like the base thing, attachment and avoiding things that are going to take you away from that good intent are going to be super super important, right? So I don't know if Osha was as good as that as we think she is. I think that she actually probably has a worse attachment style than May does. And with dark side powers, that might be amplified a whole bunch. We might see it get kind of crazy. To
I am
Georgie's point last week about the song being tragic, that
Oh
the
yeah.
Pilot 2
Yeah.
song. So
Very true. I'm still very curious on how OSHA will react to being so close to Chimere. Uh, and of course we know the intentions, or we
yeah,
kind of know the intentions of May. She is assuming the role of OSHA to get close to the Jedi and all of this stuff, right? To
yeah.
infiltrate. We're seeing that. But how is it going to play out with OSHA? Like
She could
that
just
is a
brainwash her.
yeah. I'm well. How easily is she going to be susceptible to that? Is she going to
Yeah.
fight it? Like that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think that's
Uh,
like comes back to that like that opening scene when we see them as kids where Osha starts off playing with it, then does it aggressively, and then lets
yeah,
it go. So there's some of that darkness I think that's in there, but Saul has much more to do with it than I think that we're that than we know. I think he knows because even when May as Osha picks him up, he immediately asks, "Where's your sister? Not, are you okay, Osha?"
yeah,
Or it was immediately, "Where's your sister?" Because I think he's worried about her telling what actually happened that night, because I think she was definitely there. She definitely saw something that Soul doesn't want May to tell her, which is
yeah,
why he's been so adamant of keeping them separate here whenever they could, and using stun blasts, and making sure that Soul gets there first.
yeah, for sure. Emil also says the confusion in Soul caught my attention. In this chapter, he seems more devoted to the dark force, with a lot of anger, wanting more to kill than to defend life. He wants to cover up the past.
Yeah,
He was aggressive in this fight.
yeah.
Um, there is a wild theory out right now, calling it now Master Soul and Chimera are long lost brothers.
It could
Soul
be.
meaning Sol meaning the sun, Chimere, Kamir in Arabic meaning the moon.
Yep.
Uh, that would be pretty wild. Two lost brothers, two long lost sisters. It's gonna be
Dyads. Star
very
Wars loves a dyad. The Sith
oh
love a dyad
100.
for they love it. They love it. And again, Soul was the only one to notice him there
Hmm.
at the very start. He might have noticed late, but he noticed first.
Yeah,
And
he was
there's
the first to react.
something he's seeing people he's not expecting to see. He thinks these people are long gone. Oh, and that speaks again to different reactions, right? You have May seeing someone who's long gone and is totally ready to change her life. Now that Soul is seeing them, is he also going to have his own faith challenge? That would be so cool. I would love to see it. Break my heart, Leslie. Break my
Yeah,
heart. Break my heart,
it.
because that would so speak to why the Jedi suck so bad and why this is the end of the High Republic era, not the peak of the High
Mhm.
Republic era. And to have Soul, you're number one. It'd be like Qui-Gon Jinn going to the dark side. That's how bad it would hurt.
Which is absolutely wild, and I think if this all comes to fruition, Leslie did it on purpose. She's like, you know what? Soul is a kind-hearted, loving
Yeah.
father. Look, we're gonna show all of these things. You're gonna fall in love with him, just for you to be so angry by the end of the season.
Yep.
Oh, that would break my heart, man.
Yeah. And
Truly,
this is
truly.
this is definitely like the worst way to do it too. He's not dying valiantly in battle. We've been questioning this dude for like 3 weeks now. I
Yeah,
don't like that. I don't like that. I want to go back to when it was all about the Soul Patrol, and now it's what did you do, man? Like, what did you do, and what aren't you telling us? And how are how is he going to find out that this is May in front of him? And
yeah.
how clouded must he be if he can't figure that out?
Yeah, and we had seen and heard all of these different things from, you know, everybody questioning why didn't the Jedi Council know that Palpatine was a dark force user?
Yeah,
And, inevitably the Sith Lord. Like we are seeing in real time this downfall of these
yeah,
heroes on high. So I am loving this. I'm loving the confusion. I am really digging how this will all, you know,
yeah.
inevitably end.
And
We
it's
we
super
hope.
important to remember that like them seeing this guy here and him being a Sith, or like them not immediately jumping to like, oh, this is going to be a Sith. Like not even Yoda has seen a Sith like in his lifetime, at least canonically, has not
Yeah,
seen a Sith until basically the prequels. So they've been gone for like thousands of years. This is like if I told you a caveman was killing politicians or something, like that's like how crazy it would be for this dude to be a Sith. And people, I think we need to understand, like while the Sith are like their adversary in this giant cycle, the darkness will rise and the Jedi will might rise to meet them, or the followers of the light will rise to meet them. But that's a big gap that happens, and in between that gap, for whatever reason, the Jedi fell off pretty hard, and however many thousands of years it is. But it's not this. The Sith weren't just walking around for like a long, 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 long time.
yeah. The one of the very first books of this third wave of the High Republic had one of the characters pretending to be a Sith, and even in
Yeah,
the High Republic, they mentioned as like, oh, like the old legends of the Sith. Like it
yeah,
is still long before even
yeah,
then
yeah. And
that
Star Wars
the Sith
Hunters has
were a
someone
thing.
pretending to be a Sith. One of the Reeve is pretending to be a Sith in like
Yeah.
canonically, like in the game, like in the story. She's just pretending to be a Sith just because she knows that people are going to get excited. Like, oh, a Sith, that's crazy. Like, let's watch her fight in an arena. Like, it's not that crazy, y'all. They're not super known.
Yeah. So really, really exciting stuff. Uh, and that is how the episode ends. We see that Chimere is healing
Mhm.
Osha at the very end.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm sure people are loving that. Oh, a dark side person healed somebody? What?
yeah. Uh, Emil also says, could it be that at the end of the series they will tell us Chimere's dark name? Will it be the beginning of showing us Darth Plagueis? It could be interesting. Uh, Canonically, the idea of Darth Plagueis, he has to be sitting somewhere, moving his imaginary chessboard. Uh, and I don't know. Like this was something that me and Katie talked about before the series started. Could Plagueis appear by the end of the series? Not necessarily this season, but by the end of the series because of how things play out. Um, I don't know if you necessarily need him because of the idea that if Chimere is somebody who is just, hey, I'm going to take this concept, wreck shop, and cause as much chaos as I can in the galaxy. Plagueis could still be canonically way somewhere else, saying like, yeah, he's going to do this in basically my name, quote unquote, and I don't have to do anything. There's so many things falling into place, and I can just, you know, push, this or do that and do whatever. I don't think you need to show him, but I think to connect the dots, you may need to. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think eventually him being there makes sense. I don't want it to be in this one, mainly because I want more story than this. And I think that like part of the mystery is part of the magic. I think part of the conversation because it puts us in the shoes of so many characters that we just described, right? Who don't really know what happened. Like, I mean, after all, like, how does this whole thing start? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? Like, a lot of these things
Mhm.
are up to interpretation and point of view and perspective. So, I would love more of that than an answer to a Darth Plagueis book because I'd rather
Yeah.
just canonize the Darth Plagueis book and then let us tell other stories. Because I don't really
I
need to
think
see Darth Plagueis go like this for an entire season, just so like Palpatine can tell his story in the opera house later.
exactly. And for me, what I have been loving more as somebody who is coming into this fandom, of course, I've loved Star Wars as a general audience member, watching the movies, seeing Clone Wars and whatever, but really diving in deep with like the comics and the novels, what I love most are these newer stories that are just within the realm of the universe. So
Yeah,
going into the High Republic, there is no Darth Vader. There is no Sith. There is no Luke Skywalker.
yeah,
There's a whole bunch of Jedi that you can fall in love with because of different age groups of the books. And here, yeah, Darth Plagueis could get a jaw drop and you could be like,
yeah,
"Oh shit."
yeah.
But I think with what we are getting now is so much more interesting
So much more
because
interesting. It's so much more interesting for me to for me. I don't even really. I never really fucked with Yord like that. I thought Yord was a cop from the first time I saw him. It wasn't even until I went on the internet or to Twitter that I thought everyone was like, "Oh my god, Yord's like the best thing ever."
yeah.
But when his neck snapped, I literally said, "Oh shit!" Like my dog scurried away. It shocked me. It shocked me how brutally they made
I,
that dude
I
and
out of
tossed him
everybody
aside.
who was there, I thought Yord was gonna live because,
Yeah,
like, even
just
though,
because he
of
ran
course,
away like a little punk.
everybody falls in love with these characters way after everything is filmed. So it's like, oh yeah, the people love him too much. He could die. Nah, they already planned it.
Yeah,
It was insane.
gone.
I had the same reaction when his neck
Absolutely
snapped.
gone. And I should have known. I should have known. I should have known because Starlight Beacon exists. did.
Yep.
Starlight Beacon existed. So I should have known, like, not to like. I should have known that this would go that route, because it's so much more interesting to have characters that you don't know. You don't know if they're going to make it, and that adds to the drama, right? To have Plagueis be there, I know eventually Sidious is going to kill him eventually. I know how this whole saga of the Jedi and Sith ends up until episode 9, right? But I want to know what's going on in other places. That kept that story going. Like, this happened, but like, how did that happen? Not necessarily here this happened, because that's a different story. Here this happened versus how this happened. I think they're two different stories, and I'd much rather be on the how than showing me Darth Plagueis, villain pyramid templing, telling Chimere to go do other stuff, because we've seen that already. We've seen Sidious do it
Yeah.
already. Let's do
Yep.
something else. He failed, in the end. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be anyway, man. Could be anyway. I mean, the Sith, like, are in canon. I know there are species and whatever, but like in Legends, I get it. I played Knights of the Old Republic. I get it. I understand. But in the canon, they start from like a rogue Jedi group, right? So why? And there's plenty of rogue Sith groups. There's plenty of acolytes of the Beyond, super Sith lovers but aren't Sith. So I would love for like this to be a start of one of those faction groups that grows to the point where Kylo Ren is stealing a saber from some dude named Ren, and then basically just takes his name.
Yeah.
And they have lightsabers that explode. That seems super cool. And just keep giving us stuff from like the Legend stuff, because like with these stories, I think it's easier to throw in things from Legends. Like, eventually Vanessa Rowe, from the trailers, Vanessa Rowe's whipping out that light whip eventually, and she's going to be fighting presumably Chimere with his Shoto Red Blade. Like, that's stuff directly from the comics. A light whip versus a dual wield red Shoto blade person, but it's flipped. It's just such cool poetry, and you can see that there's clear love for these characters, especially when you go to the episode guides and like, oh yeah, and they confirm like, oh yes, we canonized that lightsaber style from Mara Jade, so that way that this guy could use it. Like, that's just such cool stuff, and that's so much cooler
Yeah.
than figuring out how Anakin got to be Force Jesus.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm looking forward, like I said, to these next 3 episodes. It's going to be a very short 3 weeks, but it's gonna be a very long 3 weeks at the same time. I feel like
Yeah.
before we know it, we're gonna see this finale, but it's gonna take so long. So that is it. That is our review. I appreciate you coming on, Adrian. Let these lovely people know again where they can find you. Pimp out your review for this episode as well on your website
Yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah. You can find me primarily writing at But Why Though PC on just about everything. ButWhyThough.net, BUTYTHO, and you can find me over there primarily. Other than that, I talk a lot about Star Wars on Instagram and TikTok these days, a little bit more than Twitter. So lots of videos. As you can see, I love lore stuff. So I talk about all the cool lore connections that you might have missed. That I think go deeper than just like, oh, the Leonardo DiCaprio meme type things, because I think those things are super fun. But just seeing these connections like that play out are so super exciting for me. So I talk a lot about that, and people like Clay come and yell at the fanboys with me. So lots of fun.
Yes, of course. Go check out everything from Adrian. He is a very good guy. We over here at Star Wars Alliance, of course, you can check out our most recent book review that we did. Of course, Temptations of the Force. If you are finally finished with that book, it's been out for quite some time now. Go check that out. Want to keep that as a reminder. Of course, you can find me at Fanboy Clay on any and all social media, TikTok as well. I need to ramp that thing back up. I recently like purged my TikTok because I was like, I want to start
Yeah.
fresh and I want to do all my different things. I need to get back on that. But go follow me there. Marvel Rivals is opening their beta at the end of July, so you can see me on Twitch as well playing that. That's going to be so much fun. And of course, you can always find me here again on the network of the GUA over at Ranger Alliance. Me and Joe are actually going to be recording an episode this week. We are in Turbo season, so we are, I think, on the fourth, fifth, and sixth episode this week. So go check that out as well. Again, Katie will be trying to make it sometime in the future. She is finally, ready to, go back into podcasting. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But with that, guys, thank you so much for being here. And remember, may the force be with you.